Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about data center and cloud optimization. Just finished the top line. We're going to do specific examples to various. I'm going to start with you. Give us a specific example that you'd like to either brag about or just explain what it is that you did there and the opportunity you had.
Yeah, so we've done a lot within the Corps of Engineers to really move not just data center, but data and modernization forward. Specifically, I think it's key to highlight one of the major areas we put a lot of emphasis on is around the operational technology aspects of things. And that's operational technology in conjunction with leveraging data centers and the optimization aspects. So right now within the Corps, three of our major lines of effort is hydropower, navigation, and dredging as we support the nation. And with that being said, there's a lot of operational technology that manages those type of things. And when you look at flooding and flood zones, predictive analysis, and those type of things, we have a lot of major mission critical applications that actually support those lines of effort. During last flood season, one of the things we were able to do was successfully migrate some of our major water applications to the cloud, and they are in a cloud native state. With that being said, we limited the ability of having to refactor a lot of those applications, but we were able to, in almost a lift and shift concept, be able to port the application over into that cloud environment using a cloud native state from an application perspective. That was pretty significant within the Corps of Engineers because over the past several flood seasons, we had many challenges with being able to operate our application, getting the most optimization out of it, and being able to support the nation in the way we need it. Because when you think about one of the major applications that is within that product suite is the ability to put blue roofs on top of houses. So when storms happen and it blows tarps, when it blows roofs off the house, we come back from a Corps of Engineers perspective and put the blue tarps on top of the houses to be able to protect it from any additional damages being able to occur. So users must have the ability to put in their request for those type of assistance when those natural disasters happen. And we manage the applications that allow us to be able to do that. Within the Corps of Engineers, as I said, we were able to successfully move that into a cloud environment. And over the course of the last flood season, we actually saw a lot of success. We had more input for cloud, more input for blue rooftops on houses, and it was a huge success. And we partnered with DHS and FEMA on those initiatives. So I think that's a good news story of some of the things that we've done by being able to leverage a cloud environment to help us move the mission forward.
Sounds fantastic, and you don't think, I mean, it actually naturally makes sense about all these unique claimant environments, and you all being certainly awfully busy there. So appreciate everything that you're doing. Nicholas, how about at Snowflake? Can you give us a specific example of where you all have been able to work with an agency to adopt this technology and really enable the mission?
Yeah, I'm happy to, Luke. Thanks. My favorite is Snowflake has sort of gotten itself in the middle of the Medicaid and Medicare business, helping agencies that's a massive spend for tax dollars every year. And it's a huge value add to the citizens of this country. Obviously, healthcare is always at the forefront of our citizen handling. So Snowflake was able to bring all this technology to bear against a very large problem, which is how do you prevent fraud in healthcare? And prevent is a goal we'll never achieve, right? Perfection is not going to exist, but we're getting markedly closer to that mark. And I think that's really where the data collaboration part of the cloud comes in, and being able to operate at scale efficiently and in a cost-effective way. All of that data from all of the states flowing up and trying to detect if someone is attempting to defraud the government by, trying to get their knee replaced in Florida and California at the same time, probably not likely. So looking for that kind of data and that kind of correlation between entries at speed and at scale is extremely difficult. But in the cloud, it's cost effective, relatively simple to set up, and relatively straightforward. So Snowflake is really excited to be a part of that now, and we're beginning some work over at NASA as well. So we're excited to see what kind of data science we can do over there.
Fantastic. And the fact that you can kind of turn it on and turn it off without a capital outlay, I think is really fantastic. It's incredible. Beth, let's go over to you. I know you have a plethora of examples. Give us one you'd like to highlight of where you've been able to really plow through this cloud optimization data center journey.
So I do have a number of examples, and a couple of them are pretty cool. I just want to start by saying I think this is a foundational shift in our capability at DHS, right? So not only getting to the cloud, doing the network modernization that's necessary to support coming out of off-prem data centers, which for an organization the size of DHS, we operate in some pretty remote locations. And that can be fairly challenging when you're shifting where your workloads operate, right? So instead of being in one or two very centralized locations, now we're asking our endpoints, our forward-leaning individuals and operators, to access data potentially in multiple locations. And without the network modernization supporting these changes, it wouldn't have worked very well. So I want to say that sort of broadly, the whole of the infrastructure modernization approach, whether it's cloud optimization, network modernization, putting in some people and process organizational structures like our Network Operations Security Center, again, closing gaps and seams so that we can secure these environments, critically important given the state of affairs. But to a specific example, in migrating out of Data Center 2, from a timing perspective, we were also smack in the middle of some pretty big financial systems modernization activities at the Department of Homeland Security, which for any large organization, but particularly in the federal government, financial systems modernization has proven to be a bit challenging, and we've had our own share of fits and starts with it. We had a huge success with transitioning the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, large organization, over to the FSMS system. Right when I'm trying to close the data center, though, we're trying to migrate the US Coast Guard, which is an order of magnitude larger in terms of support requirements in the financial system. And also lots of concerns about audits and all the things you're changing when you're migrating to a new financial system. I also asked them to pull it out of the data center and put it up in the cloud. I have to give a huge shout out to our partners in the program office at the DHS CFO's office, also IBM. They came along on the journey with us to get that whole system out of Data Center 2 and into a cloud instance, also re-platform it, not cloud native, but certainly in better condition than it was when it was in the brick and mortar data center, and given us the opportunity to provision resources, as you mentioned, Luke, add capacity as needed, and particularly with this Coast Guard migration, that was a huge benefit. So that to me has been one of the highlights. We had a huge success there with migrating it out of Data Center 2 in the process of closing that data center, and we didn't cause a hiccup to the Coast Guard's transition to the modernized financial system. That's a big deal. And again, I've said repeatedly, this team that I work with, you can pretty much throw anything at them and they're going to be successful because they just don't see an alternative.
It's amazing to think about data center migration, replatforming a financial system, migrating it into the cloud. Talk about throwing a running chainsaw at a juggler. I think that's a shining example of that. Hats off to you all, and done flawlessly, right? It's just incredible. Rob, how about over at Cloudera? Can you give us an example that you'd like to highlight of working with one of these agencies to enable this capability?
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking, listening to Beth talk. I want to give a shout out to my old partners in Navy. We have worked with NavAir, Naval Aviation Community, to really help them render informed decisions with respect to their maintenance of several aviation platforms. And interesting enough, you have to walk the dog back and say, okay, what are we doing with whether it's a data center or cloud? We've moved from storing data, right, and let normal transactions engage and we run the business, to using this platform to make informed decisions right, with things like machine learning and artificial intelligence. So we've advanced what we can get out of the information technology infrastructure to a fairly well. So we've helped the Navy understand, collect the data that is on several aviation platforms, very sophisticated aviation platforms, align it, enrich it, and then run some analytics on it and produce outcomes that actually improve the operational availability of the aircraft and reduce the money they're spending on maintenance. So that is a win-win-win for the Navy based upon the fact that you have this data. How do you make use of it, right? So think you go back to data center optimization, or you can go to cloud, but it doesn't matter where this data is sitting. You've got to understand it, align it, put it in a data lake, and run analytics on it, and then produce a result on the other side that actually is beneficial to the government. So a big shout out to NavAir for understanding how to do this with us. And then we're watching the results come out, and they are literally making money off this. And the platforms are able to stay in the air longer because of their understanding of the data, what's going on inside the aircraft. So
a super impressive use case there, and hats off to the Navy for pulling that off. Tom, how about over at GSA? Again, I had mentioned you're really striped across all of these agencies, seeing all these various activities. Give us an example you'd like to highlight.
Yeah, I mean, we are at the bird's nest because we get to see this at the macro level. We believe a successful cloud optimization program is getting rid of excess compute, reducing the redundancy of systems that are providing the same value, and identifying legacy components. Everybody has legacy components. You need to be able to manage that and have the right tools in organization that could ferret out these legacy components and be able to come up with a strategy of how you're going to get rid of some of these. These might be pieces of very viable systems. And then right-sizing your data center footprint. We are promoting heavily application rationalization, or FinOps for the cloud, to do portfolio analysis on your investments and make sure that you go through a rigorous process in getting it into the CIO hands well in advance of any procurements or renewals of systems or applications. We can't have that same mentality we did on-prem of buying gross amounts of storage at the end of the year. That just does not work in the cloud environment. You'll go broke doing that. And we also want to migrate applications where appropriate and leverage edge computing. Edge computing has always been a difficult subject because nobody really knows what that is. But I think we're starting to evolve to understand what it is, especially when applications are getting to the mobile level, mobile devices.
No question about that. And gone are the days of sort of crashing this funding in at the end of the year, because you don't need to do that, right? When you're in a consumption-based model, presumably. Chris, how about over at Quest Software? Can you highlight an example you'd like to give where you've been able to enable an operating component in an agency to further their mission using this technology?
Sure. Several years ago, I believe 6 to be exact, we started working with one of DoD's entities, and they had roughly 1 million plus users, endpoints across the globe. So they had a global infrastructure based on MS Directory services and infrastructure, and they had both on-prem, they had edge, they had cloud. You have data, quite frankly, in all sorts of specialized devices, but all one thing in common, that they leveraged that Microsoft infrastructure globally. And just about the same time, if you remember, we had the Maersk attack, quite frankly, where they lost pretty much every domain controller, and they had to actually recover it from, I believe, a server in Africa that was offline at the time. That was the NotPetya attack. And then you also had other incidents that start to impact not just information technology, but as DeVarious pointed out, the operational technology side that controls switches and gears that move things in the real world, the kinetic effect. And so we actually had Saudi Aramco with I think it was the Shamoon attack, I forget the exact name, but they lost a lot of big piece of their operations technology. And I think our DoD customers started looking at, well, wait a minute, we have pretty much a similar infrastructure across the globe. And these things are so many missions depend on them. How do we create sort of an IT or a resilient stance on these types of infrastructure? And so we work with them to figure out exactly, okay, how do we now replicate what you have, secure it, encrypt it to the level where it's not just secure in the data center, but regardless of where your perimeter is, as your perimeter extends, whether it's to a mobile device, whether it's to an edge device or to a forward command, that you're able to recover relatively quickly without impacting the mission to the degree. So I'm glad to say 6 years later, we've successfully helped them basically, one, put in those systems in place. So regardless of where they are in the globe or what type of command, whether it's on a forward base, a ship, a carrier, a jet, a plane, whatever it may be, they can recover, get access to information, and continue the mission without interruption. And the irony is that we look at the attacks in the commercial world and say, oh, well, that's because commercial IT, they dropped the ball. And what they point out to us is that there are porous areas of IT, no matter what agency or what company you're with. IT is very porous. And if you don't figure out exactly where those holes are, someone's going to find them to you, find them for you, and alert you in the worst possible way, for instance, how impactful those things can be. So I think they learned a valuable lesson in watching a commercial disaster unfold, for instance, and the impact of that, and what it would actually mean to missions where life and limb are at stake, quite frankly. So I'm glad we were able to help in that particular scenario, but that's something we do both in the commercial world as well as to our federal customers, for instance. And I love that journey, for instance, of realization of what happens in the commercial world, how it impacts us in our federal mission, for instance, and then learning from each other, for instance, to deploy that technology across a large DoD entity.
Yeah, and the resilience posture really has tightened up in this type of environment, as Beth described there. You kind of throw anything at the team and they seem to be able to get it done. Beth, I'm going to come up to you. We're going to talk about priorities. I know there's a lot. I know the secretaries issued out, I think 18, 20 of them, I lost count. What are Beth's top 2-3 priorities for this year? You got about 9 months left in the year. What are you focusing on?
Well, we just got the budget, so
Congratulations.
We're going to spend some money. We've laid out some pretty high level priorities for OCIO, things around user experience and our cybersecurity posture. Obviously, everybody is focused on cybersecurity and will continue to be. I think sort of for me, it's enabling speed of mission, right? So I mentioned earlier how I look at infrastructure, and that's really been my game for the last couple of decades. And I look at what we've done to strengthen the infrastructure so that all of these mission enabling solutions can be delivered, and they can be delivered quickly, right? And they can be delivered efficiently, and they can be delivered effectively, no matter where we're operating our mission in DHS. I think many folks are aware of the activities down at the southern border, and we've had a technology integration activity going on since last February that has yielded some frankly amazing results in terms of being able to add efficiency to the whole life cycle of the immigration process, and to do it in a way that is humane and is focused on the experience of the folks that we're encountering, and using technology to automate that process. That is still a huge priority for us. We received $50 million in technology modernization funds to continue that work. Again, though, if we go back to data center optimization, data center consolidation, network modernization, and all of the security controls we've put around that infrastructure, all of that work that we've been doing for 10, 12 years has now enabled us to look at these mission priorities and respond to them with an agility we've never had before. And I think that's the exciting part, is we're going to keep looking at those mission sets across DHS, which, look, we've got a variety, right? We're 22, 23 agencies, depending upon how you count, with disparate mission sets operating in disparate locations. So everything we do in the technology space has to facilitate the whole, right? We have to take an enterprise approach. So my priorities this year are to continue the great work we've done to shore up the foundation and then continue to enable the speed of mission.
Fantastic. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.